When someone comes for you, the first thing they want is your reaction. They want to pull you into their storm, get you defensive, make you prove something. That's why your power isn't in how loud you get. It's in how well you manage your energy. When you match someone's anger with anger, you hand them control. But when you manage your tone, your face, your breathing, you quietly remind both of you that you decide how this goes. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. But staying calm when someone expects you to explode is the most powerful form of self-respect. When emotions rise, the body follows. Your heart beats faster, your hands might shake, your brain floods with "say something back." But here's the key. The first few seconds determine the tone of everything that follows. If you respond from emotion, you react. If you respond from awareness, you lead. So when that wave of anger hits, take one slow breath before you speak. Just one. That's not weakness. That's power disguised as patience, because you're not avoiding confrontation. You're choosing your battlefield. Managing your energy doesn't mean letting people walk over you. It means understanding that matching chaos never creates clarity. When someone's yelling, your calmness becomes a mirror that shows them how out of control they are. Your stillness exposes their noise. The moment you stay steady, they lose leverage. You don't have to clap back or prove a point. Your composure says everything. In fact, the calmer you are, the more uncomfortable they become, because they can't pull you into their drama. This level of control is emotional discipline. It's the practice of training your nervous system not to let someone else's behavior dictate your own. It's recognizing that not every battle deserves your full emotional investment. You learn to observe instead of absorb. You hear their tone, but you don't internalize it. You see their anger, but you don't catch it. Because when you stay centered, you stay in control of your power. And that's the one thing they can't take from you unless you hand it over. Sometimes you'll have to remind yourself mid-conversation, don't match them, manage you. That's your reset phrase. Because people can feel when you're in control of your emotions. It changes the room. It shifts the energy. Suddenly, they're reacting to your calm instead of the other way around. That's leadership in its simplest form. It's not about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. You're not trying to win the argument. You're protecting your peace, and that's a far bigger win. So the next time someone comes for you with words meant to cut, let them swing at air. Don't raise your voice to match theirs. Don't let their chaos write your script. Just breathe, observe, and respond from composure. You'll notice how quickly the power dynamic changes. Because true strength isn't in how loud you defend yourself. It's in how quietly you refuse to be pulled into the storm. Control your energy, and you control the outcome. Silence has a bad reputation in heated moments. People think if you don't speak up immediately, you're weak, you're scared, or you're backing down. But silence, when used intentionally, is one of the strongest tools you have. When someone comes for you, they want instant reaction, something they can grab onto, twist, or use against you. The second you pause, you take away their weapon. That quiet moment isn't you losing your voice, it's you taking a deep breath before you aim your words with precision instead of emotion. Silence gives you time to think, and thinking is what keeps you from saying something you'll wish you could take back. Most people don't realize how powerful a few seconds of quiet can be. In an argument, silence feels like eternity, and that's exactly why it works. The other person starts to fill it with their own insecurity, their own over-explaining, their own unraveling. Meanwhile, you're centered, calm, watching. That pause shows emotional control. You're not rushing to defend yourself or to prove them wrong. You're showing that their noise doesn't shake your ground, and that right there makes you untouchable. Not because you're silent out of fear, but because you're silent out of strategy. Silence isn't about retreat. It's about observation. It lets you study what's really going on beneath the surface. People reveal their intentions when you stop interrupting. They show their frustration, their insecurity, their motives. In silence, you see who's trying to understand you and who's just trying to win. You learn that not every attack needs a defense. Sometimes the most mature response is to say nothing at all. because when you stop feeding the fire, it burns out faster. Your restraint becomes your advantage. There's a certain strength that comes from holding back words you could easily use to destroy. You might have the perfect comeback, the sharpest retort, but you choose not to say it. That's real discipline. That's emotional maturity, because every time you speak from anger, you give away your calm. But when you pause, you give yourself the space to respond with clarity. Silence builds that space. It's not about being passive. It's about being intentional. You're saying, I'll respond when I'm ready, not when you tell me to. That's how you regain control of the moment. In those few seconds of silence, you're not suppressing your feelings. You're regulating them. You're letting the initial wave pass before it pulls you under. You're protecting your peace while the other person is spilling theirs. That quiet space is where wisdom forms. It's where you decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Because the truth is, not everything needs a response. Sometimes the greatest strength you can show is the ability to stay calm in the noise. And silence is what makes that possible. So when someone comes at you trying to provoke, surprise them with silence. Let the quiet hang heavy. Let them feel the power of your pause. They'll either calm down or reveal more than they meant to. Either way, you stay in control. Remember, silence isn't your weakness. It's your weapon. You're not ignoring them. You're choosing peace over reaction, clarity over chaos. And that choice will always speak louder than any words you could ever say. When someone comes for you, your natural instinct is to defend yourself. You want to explain, justify, or prove your point so they can see your side. But here's the twist. The more you defend, the more power you give them. Instead of swinging back, ask questions. Curiosity disarms conflict. It shifts the focus off emotion and onto logic. It's hard for someone to keep attacking when you calmly ask, "What makes you say that?" Or "Help me understand what you mean." You're not agreeing with them. You're redirecting their energy. That small move changes the entire tone of the conversation because it forces them to think instead of react. Questions turn confrontation into conversation. They show that you're in control, not because you're louder, but because you're composed enough to stay curious. When you ask instead of attack, you make the other person confront their own reasoning. You turn the mirror back on them. Sometimes people come at you with emotion, not facts. But when you ask calm, direct questions, they either start explaining or they start realizing they don't actually have much to stand on. And that's when the power shifts, quietly, without you having to raise your voice or prove your worth. There's strength in being the person who doesn't take the bait. Asking questions slows the entire interaction down. It buys you time, gives you clarity, and often reveals what's really driving the other person. Maybe they're hurt. Maybe they're jealous. Maybe they're projecting. You'll never know that if you go straight into defense mode. But when you stay steady and ask, "Can you tell me why that bothers you?" Or "What are you hoping I'll understand?" it exposes the emotion behind their attack. You're not there to win. You're there to understand. And that kind of emotional control confuses people who expect chaos. Curiosity is confidence. Only someone secure in themselves can stay calm enough to ask instead of react. When you ask questions, you send a subtle message. You don't control my mood. I control the pace of this. It's not sarcasm. It's not passive aggression. It's self-mastery. You're guiding the conversation instead of being dragged through it. You're standing tall without needing to prove anything. And often, that quiet strength will make the other person soften, because they realize you're not fighting them. You're simply not feeding their fire. The beauty of asking questions is that it keeps you grounded in logic. When emotions are high, logic gets blurry. Questions pull both of you back to center. They create space for truth to surface without the noise of defensiveness. And even if the other person doesn't respond well, you still win because you never lost yourself. You stayed calm, you stayed collected, and you handled it with grace. That's how you walk away proud, not drained. So next time someone comes for you, resist the urge to explain yourself. Instead, lean in and ask something that makes them stop and think. Turn the moment into an opportunity to learn about them, about yourself, about control. Because when you can stay curious in conflict, you stop being reactive and start being powerful. Asking questions isn't weakness. It's emotional intelligence in motion. And it's the reason why you'll always walk away with your peace intact, no matter how loud the other person gets. There's a moment in every argument when you have to decide what matters more, being right or being at peace. Most people chase the need to prove their point because ego whispers that if they don't, they'll look weak. But the truth is, real power isn't in proving, it's in preserving. When someone comes for you trying to pull you into a battle of words or validation, the strongest thing you can do is protect your integrity. You don't need to win every fight to know your worth. You don't need everyone to understand you to stand in your truth. The goal isn't to win them over, it's to walk away with your character intact. When you let someone's opinion control your emotions, you hand them power they didn't earn. They get to dictate how you feel, how you act, and how you see yourself. That's not strength. That's surrender disguised as pride. Protecting your integrity means choosing not to trade your peace for temporary satisfaction. It means refusing to fight every battle just to prove you're right. Sometimes silence, sometimes walking away, sometimes smiling when they expect anger. That's what real control looks like. Because at the end of the day, you don't need their approval. You just need to be able to respect yourself when it's over. There's a freedom that comes with not needing to be understood. When you know who you are, you stop chasing explanations. You don't owe anyone your energy just because they're loud enough to demand it. You don't owe anyone your calm just because they're losing theirs. Protecting your integrity is about alignment, making sure your actions match your values even when you're tested. You can't control what someone says about you, but you can control whether you let it change how you carry yourself, and that's what separates emotional maturity from emotional reactivity. The hardest part about not chasing approval is learning to sit with being misunderstood. People will twist your words, doubt your motives, or question your choices. And when that happens, it's tempting to defend yourself until they see your side. But here's the reality. Most of the time, they're not listening to understand. They're listening to respond. Protecting your integrity means realizing their opinion doesn't define your truth. You stay kind when they expect anger. You stay calm when they expect chaos. You stay grounded when they try to shake you, because your peace is more valuable than their validation. Every time you choose integrity over ego, you strengthen your foundation. You stop needing to win the argument because you've already won the moment you didn't betray your own standards. You become the person who doesn't need to be loud to be strong. You lead by example, not to prove, but to stay true. People may not say it, but they notice when you handle conflict with grace. They see the difference between reacting to noise and responding with purpose. And that quiet consistency builds more respect than any heated comeback ever could. So, when someone comes for you, remind yourself, you don't need to be right in their eyes to stay right within yourself. Let them think what they want. Let them say what they say. You don't need to fix their perception. You just need to protect your peace. Because winning the argument might feel good for a moment, but keeping your integrity will serve you for life. The one who walks away calm, centered, and unbothered, that's the one who truly wins. When someone comes for you, it's easy to forget who you are. Their words hit like darts, and suddenly you start questioning yourself, wondering if maybe they're right, maybe you are what they say, but that's the trap. Their opinion isn't your truth. What they see in you says more about their perspective than your reality. People project their insecurities, their pain, and their fears onto others because it's easier than facing themselves. When you know who you are, their version of you doesn't shake you. You stop trying to fix their misunderstanding because you realize you were never broken in the first place. It's natural to want to defend your character. You want to explain, to make them see your intentions. But not everyone deserves that explanation. Some people don't want clarity, they want control. And if they can get you to doubt yourself, they win. That's why knowing who you are is your shield. When you're anchored in self-awareness, other people's opinions lose their grip. You recognize that what they're saying isn't truth, it's projection. You stop absorbing their noise because you've built a foundation too solid for their words to shake. Your peace becomes your proof. When you let someone define you, you give away your identity. Their criticism starts to echo louder than your own voice. and you begin living by their narrative instead of your own. But here's the thing. No one knows the battles you've fought to become who you are. No one understands your growth the way you do. So when they judge you, they're speaking from a single frame of a movie they've never watched. You can't control how others see you, but you can control how much power you give their perception. The more you stay rooted in truth, the less their opinions matter. People who attack others are often battling something within themselves. The louder they are about you, the quieter they are about their own pain. That's why staying calm isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You see beyond the words. You recognize that their behavior isn't personal, it's reflective. They're showing you where they are, not who you are. When you stay grounded in that understanding, you stop taking offense and start taking distance. You don't have to correct them. You don't have to convince them. You just have to keep walking in your truth, knowing that time always exposes who was real. The moment you realize that you define you, not them, everything changes. You no longer chase validation, you create it. You no longer let insults bruise your confidence, because you understand that someone's judgment can't rewrite your worth. You've already proven enough just by being consistent with your character. You keep showing up, doing right, staying kind, not because the world deserves it, but because that's who you are, and no one can take that from you. Your stability becomes your statement. So when someone comes for you, don't let their words pull you out of alignment. You don't have to fight for your identity. You just have to remember